Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, Toby Amusa in another record-breaking feat, coming in from the world of badminton, multiple champions qualify for the Paris Olympic Games. And in football, Arsenal keeps the title race alive. Last day action expected. Details of these and many more will be yours when we return from a break. Stay with us.
Telling him not to counter punch.
Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition, I have with me Michael. Nice to have you, Mike.
Yeah, always nice to do this with you. Good morning, viewers out there.
Let's start from a very cheering note this week because world record holder at the weekend, women's 100 meters, Toby Amusa, blazed to yet another superb win at the 2024 Jamaica Athletics Invitational with a leading time of 12.40 seconds. This couldn't have been any better from Toby Amusa.
Yeah, definitely. I think she put up an impressive display there for herself, breaking her record as being set in the past of 12.42 seconds, but she has further reduced that timing to a more, better timing, breaking that world record at 12.40 seconds. I think for me it was an impressive one for Toby Amusa. We saw the joy and happiness in her face shortly after the race, and of course she came up against a very strong opponent, the United States of America, and also one of the best hands that we have there. But then I think
talking about the athlete from the United States of America, Christina Clemons.
Yeah.
She came third in this one, 12.54 seconds, as compared to 12.43 seconds by the home girl from Jamaica. That race swept by Toby Amusa.
Yeah, very shocking because you expected the United States of America girl, talking about Tony Marshall out here, to also be a very strong contender in this very one. Looking at her past record, I mean, she was one of the feared, athletes out there that was stiff to come first in this very one, and not even Toby Amusa. But then I think Toby Amusa's speed was that too much for her, and that is why Toby Amusa. The interesting angle of it is that Toby Amusa had to trail for the majority of the race out there. It was during the last lap that she was able to also double her effort to beat the Jamaican and the US girls. Talking about Tony Marshall to nick this one, but I think for me it was an impressive display for Toby Amusa.
Toby Amusa in an impressive display out there in Jamaica, putting up yet another record time in the 100 meters hurdles event. She's already booked her ticket to the Paris Olympic Games, but talking about the Paris Olympic Games reminds me that Godson Brume has qualified for the 2024 Olympic Games coming up in Paris after recording a remarkable performance winning the third heat of the men's 100 meters event at the SWEG Adult Championship. This is his very best. This is in 10.05 seconds. This is good enough for Nigerian Brume going to the Olympic Games.
Definitely. Looking at his timing out there, the timing of his return is very impressive because this is what we are looking at. Because if you can put up this kind of a massive timing out there to nick one of the tickets, then it's very certain that when you get to the Paris Olympic game officially, you can be able to compete with the best of the best out there. And this is what it means for you to also return in a very respectable timing, because that matters a lot. It's not about you winning the race, but the timing. That is what matters a lot, because when you get to the Paris Olympic game officially, you are going to be competing with the best of the best out there. And if your timing is not better off than that of your opponent, then you'll be, pegged back in a very distant race out there. So for me, I think it was an impressive one for Nigerian athlete out there. We're beginning to improve on our timing, which is very, very important. Like I said, it's not just about you winning a race, but the timing, it matters a lot, because if you get there to the big stage, to the big podium out there, you are definitely going to meet up with some other athlete that is more faster than you. If your timing is not that good, then you are going to be pegged back as one of the least among them. So the timing very, very important.
Talking about the timing, very important. Brume came out with 10.05 second good time. About the Team Nigeria event, contingent where Favor Oshe continues to be absent from qualifying races.
Yeah, I wonder the reason. I've been searching throughout yesterday to see the reason why Favor Ashe wasn't included in this very well. I don't know whether it is injury or whatever, but I think the Athletic Federation of Nigeria, it should behove on them to also update the public out there, the whereabouts of Favor Ashe, whether she's out injured or, So these are things that, need to be on the public, fora, so that we can be able to lay hand on any concrete reason why some of our best hand is not there. An athlete such as Favor Ashe is one of the promising youngster that we have here, one of the big name, and whenever she's not in any of our contingent, there is need for us to ask questions. So for me, I don't know what seems to be the problem, but I think it behove on the Athletic Federation of Nigeria to update us on the latest events as regard to our athletes.
Athletics Federation of Nigeria have a lot of work to do there. They really have to let Nigerians know what will be happening to one of our brightest prospects on the track, Favor Ashe. Away from that, we still bring you some reports, features of the just concluded Jamaican Athletics Invitational in Kingston, Jamaica, where Britain's Dina Ashe won the 200 meters event at the time of 22.51 seconds. This is good, but she had to pivot a fellow African, an African there, Jessica Gbaye, who came second, and her compatriot Lena Tava Thomas, who came third in the events. No doubt about it, Favor Ashe, Ashe is the queen of the track, especially in the 200 meters event.
Definitely, that is her own area of comparative advantage. I think she has the flair, she has the speed, she has the energy and stamina as well. We see her pushing through to see if she was able to dethrone this Jamaican, but it wasn't to be. I think for Dani Ashe, she has also been able to prove herself over the years, not just in this race. I've followed through her record out there. She has been very, very consistent over the last 2 years right now, and you can't take anything away from her. Anytime she squares up against every other athlete on the track out there, definitely you are going to give her the nod that at most in every 5 races, be rest assured that she's going to win at most 3 out of those 5. That is what her record speaks out, and for me, I think it's been an impressive one for the Jamaican.
Talking about impressive performance coming from Jamaica, Arthur Smith there doing so well. She no doubt the queen of the tracks, especially in the 200 meters event. Let's stay away from qualifiers for the Olympic Games now and see what the mixed martial arts got for us there this week. Amateur fighters, we are told, are jostling for available tickets as Nigerian continue to prepare for contingent towards the maiden edition of the Mixed Martial Arts National Amateur Championship, expected to get underway in just a few days from now in Indonesia, Jakarta to be specific. Nigerian mixed martial artists are doing everything possible to light up this one.
Yeah, definitely, and they are doing it in a very fine fashion. They are taking it region by region to use regional strength to be able to get the best out of every region. And of course, for me, that is the best way to go. If you go to each region, get the best out of that, and if you can be able to combine them together after selecting them through going some of those regional tournaments, that is an impressive one. But then again, we also need to commend the boxing and the MMA Hall of Fame, who also was able to put this one together, and these are professional body as well. Some of these officials took part in the just concluded All-African game out there in Ghana, in the 13th African game out there in Ghana. Some of the officials took part in the officiating out there, and that is to tell you the level of professionalism that is involved in this very one. Despite being the regional competition that we are trying to use to select some of the best hand, but then we still have some of the best hand as an officiator also taking part in this one. It's a nice one. Let's see if we can be able to aggregate some of these best hand from each region. I think we are going to have a good representation.
Talking about officials of the mixed martial arts event there, apart from
Francis will be out there, eulogizing this badminton player out there for the massive victory, and also the achievement of making it back-to-back, qualification for the Olympic game. And I think for me, if you take a look at, Okpeyori, she has been able to prove herself here in Africa, dominating every angle. She has been there for not just this year, not last year. Since the last 4 years, she has been able to dominate the continent of Africa, and she's taking it up a notch higher and making sure that she returned to the Paris Olympic game. I mean, back to back is such an impressive record for Okpeyori.
We look forward to seeing Okpeyori at the podium at the Olympic Games. She's been Africa's pride in badminton. Badminton doesn't look to be a very popular sport here in Nigeria, but with Okpeyori, we hope that more badminton players will take interest at getting international level of badminton. Now, from badminton, let's go to basketball. And talking about basketball, it's been an impressive weekend for Rivers State and Nigeria, to be specific, because Rivers Supers, Nigeria's only representative at the Basketball League Sahara Conference that took place in Dakar, Senegal, recorded a 4-2 win over their opponents in the same conference. Remember, we had US Monastir, defending champions, AS Douanes home side, and of course APR of Rwanda in that group. But at the end of game 2, we saw a 4-2 record that qualified River Supers for the very first time, a Nigerian team in the finals of the Basketball League that has entered into 4 seasons now. It was tense. In the third, they won their first 3 games, no doubt. Then in the 4th game, they lost narrowly, just by 2 points at the buzzer to the home side AS Douanes. But up against APR of Rwanda, they didn't take their chances. They didn't let their chances flip, and they won that one, making the last game,
more like a formality.
More like a formality game, exactly. And that last game ended 73-62. And that was against US Monastir that they had beaten earlier in game 1.
Yeah, and you understand the reason why they have to soft pedal.
Do you mean soft pedal? Did they soft pedal?
Yes, for me that is what I think, because you take a look at their game yesterday while watching it compared to what they did in their first 3 games.
We saw some new players even introduced into the game. Right?
Yes. And that is to tell you that the coach was very, very soft out there. That is why he had to give opportunity to other fringe players out there. We saw a whole lot of new faces, about 4 or 5 of them, also coming in to also at least warm themselves up for what lies ahead. Because now that they've gotten the ticket to the playoff, I think it will be very, very some of these players, some of these fringe players will be very, very instrumental, and that is why the coach talking about, oh God, that would deem it necessary to also give that chance to some of the fringe players out there to see what they can do. And I think for me, that is why I say that they had to soft pedal in, because they've already gotten the ticket, so there is no need of trying to file in some of their key men out there, because injury it might happen to any of these players, whereas we have already picking the ticket for the playoffs. So that is the reason. But then for me, looking at their display so far, I think it has been impressive. Winning 4 out of 6 games, I think we need to give them their flowers for what they did for what they've done so far.
Multiple flowers for River Supers, the first Nigerian basketball team to play at the finals of the Basketball League in Africa. In another 1 week or thereabout, they should be in Kigali, Rwanda, where the finals will take place. They will join FC Rabat, Petro de Rwanda, of course, the team from Cape Town, Ahali of Egypt will be there in that playoff in Rwanda that gets underway on the 24th, to be specific. This is the round of champions. It would be nice to see River Supers. They were in the first edition of the Basketball League, if you remember.
Yeah.
They lost out on the second because of politics.
Yeah.
And thereafter, we had the Kwara Bombers that did attend. They didn't
have an impressive
outing. Now we have River Supers, a second time at the Basketball League, and they've gone straight into the finals. What massive support, the massive support from the River State government has paid off, taking Nigeria to the finals for the first time.
Definitely, the massive support from the River State, government, and of course, you can't also forget about to talk about the likes of Barrister Christopher Green, who is the sport commissioner. He has been very, very supportive of this River Super side, right from when we played the final of the Nigerian basketball, league here in Port Harcourt. You saw, the support of the state government. At some point, they even had to share some money to some fans out that came to the court out there to watch River Supers play the final of the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Right here, after winning the Nigerian Basketball League out there, they continue with that form of preparation where they took part in some of the warm-up game out there. They played the Louis Edem Invitational tourney out there, and from then they began to acquire one or two players. Gotten
Yeah,
five
talking
players.
about acquisition of players, the River State government had actually paid for 5 foreign players into the squad, and these players are paid from what we gather around $10,000 for their effort by joining the team. And this injection of foreign-based players, as sponsored by River State government, actually showed from the quality of play of those foreign-based players, Divine Ike, and you have Will Perry, and the rest of them. We have squad represent. They were prolific as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like we do say in our local parlance, that better soup na money kill 'em.
Right.
That is what we've seen with the acquisition of these new players, and they've also come in and blended well with the philosophy of the team. It took them less than 3 weeks for them to blend well, with their new players. And I think for me it's very, very impressive. And they are not just blending with the team, they are also giving their mark. You saw in the first game, second game, third game, the 3-point guard were able to share the responsibilities among themselves. The likes of Will Perry coming to the party when it matters most to deliver the team out there, carrying the burden of the team. The likes of Kelvin Amayo, when it matters most, you also pop up to also carry the burden of the team. I think for me, it has been very, very impressive. This acquisition of these 5 new players, these foreigners, they've also, had this experience, and that is what it means for you to inject experienced players into the squad. And for me, I think it has been very, very impressive, and they have been very instrumental into helping Rivers Hoopers get this far. Like we know in the first outing where we made it out there, we didn't have a much impressive outing. Second time, because of the political toss, we didn't take part in that very well. So I think this third edition, they've been able to also learn from their past out there, and that is why they had to go to the market, deep hand into their pocket, cough out huge amount of money to get the acquisition of, to get the services of these players. And these players, they are also living up to the billion. I think for me, it has been impressive, out now support for the Rivers Hoopers team out there.
Congratulations to Rivers Hoopers, Nigeria's own team at the Basketball League Africa. Have now moved to the next stage, which is the finals coming up in Kigali, Rwanda, on the 24th of this month, and I'm sure they will distinguish themselves among the teams that are there. We told you about the Rabat side already there, the Egyptian side already there, Ahali as well. They will make up the number that will compete in the finals. And talking about excellent performance from Rivers Hoopers reminds me of a resurgent Denver Nuggets in the NBA. Denver Nuggets put up 115 points over 107 scored by Minnesota. This playoff, they've not had an excellent run. We would have thought that, yes, they would have blown it up now. After 4 games, they've been able to split their points, but coming from behind on both occasions.
I think it was very, very massive display from Denver Nugget, the defending champion, and that is what it means for you to be a defending champion. You need to also, come strong when it matters most. They've been up and down in this playoff season, but then I think they were able to redeem themselves yesterday. The likes of Nikolai Jokic also coming to the party when it matters most. The likes of Jamal Murray as well. I think for me, Denver Nugget, we need to also watch out for this team, because whenever you try to ride them off, that is where they come up very clutchy, very handy to also, proved out as strong out there. So I think for me, it is game on for Denver Nuggets. They can do it because they've done it in the past, and they are showing that spirit of champion out there, having won it last season. They are one of the teams that qualified first from the regular season, but you look as though we also live up to that expectation at most when it matters the most, and that is what they did.
Denver Nuggets not having a very good season, especially in the playoff. Like I mentioned, they have come from behind twice in this game, in the early hours of this morning, they were in front in the first two quarters, but in the third and the fourth quarter, they narrowly lost, and maybe their performance in the first two quarters was just what gave them the win over Timberwolves from Minnesota.
Yeah, you saw their coach out there, talking about Mike Malone, speaking very tough. How he could not sit down for any second of the game. You saw him standing up, dishing out instruction. And of course, that what it means for you to, be on the edge and for you to be under pressure, because having led, they let themselves down where they allowed, their opponent to also have the better in the second quarter out there. But their coach stood up to the occasion. He was able to dish out one or two instructions out there to the players, and the players also took that instruction and came to the party, came very strong, and also overturned the course of the narrative. I think for me it has been an impressive one, though like we've seen of them this during this playoff, they have not been very, very fantastic, but I think for me this weekend game was very impressive. It's one of those characteristics that we saw of them last season that made them to become the champion.
It looking to me like it is in the Western Conference is 2-2. In the Eastern Conference, Indiana Pacers who are now down to 2-2 up against New York Knicks. They were able to take out the Knicks from New York, 121 points to 89. New York Knicks not able to garner as many as 90 points, not to talk of 100 in this fixture.
I think it was very, very, very disappointing. I watched the game yesterday. I was like, is it really New York Knicks? Because they were very, very, lackadaisical in their game yesterday. For me, I think it was quite disappointing that they even scored up to 90 points, not to talk of 100, and that is the low level of their performance that we've seen of recent time. I think for me, if they continue in this manner and fashion, I tell you, they might not possibly, make it through to the final.
Maybe because they are, I don't know, do you remember a Nigerian player is not on the roster because of injury, and it looks like they're having problem too with Mitchell Robinson, another player of New York Knicks that is of quality.
Yeah, in as much as they have injury worries to their team, about 2 or 3 of their key players are out injured because of injury. But then again, that is what it means for you to have depth in squad. You don't always rely on 1 or 2 players out there to always make the difference. You have to have about 4 or 5 stars in a team, so that when one fails to deliver, or when injury hits, then you can also have something to fall back onto other players and say, yes, if this player that is touted to be the joker of the team is out injured, then another player, another star can also rise up and also carry the burden of the team. But then I think the injury have also blighted their performance so far. But that is not an excuse, because this is the NBA.
NBA, no doubt, is getting very interesting, because we are into qualifications from the for the finals from the playoff, and right now it's a game of 7. Of course, you know that, and it is 2-2 in the Eastern Conference, 2-2 as well in the Western Conference. Game 4 in prospect in the next 24 hours. We have game 4 coming up. I'm sorry, game 5 coming up, and we hope they will have the difference between the teams because it's the best of 7 series.
Definitely. Well, we know that certainly in game 5 we must have a clear winner, a clear disparity. They need to show that golf in quality so that we can be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. They are 2-2 right now. I think it is game 1, but in game 5 we truly hold a lot, in that very one, because that is where we are going to see the boys being separated from the men.
The boys will be separated from the men in game 5 at the ongoing NBA playoff, both in the Eastern and Western Conference. Time for us to take a break. When we return for a break, we'll go to tennis, where the big names crash at the Rome Open. No doubt about it. World #1 out, and of course, home boy, do I say home man this time around, Rafael Nadal as well, knocked out of the Rome Open ongoing in Italy. Then across to the world of football, Arsenal keeping it alive till the last day in the Premiership in England. Manchester City having an
counter punch. Killing him, not the counter punch.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Killing him, not the counter punch.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here, concluding part here on the Atlantic Television Network, and I have Mike with me. And together we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sport, especially action that took place at the weekend. One that is reverberating around the world is tennis, where Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal have both been knocked out at the third round of the Rome Open. Just before we get to that, don't forget that we told you that Nigeria's Tobi Amosu has continued to impress, breaking records in the 100 meters hurdles event, and we told you there has been qualification in badminton for Okpeyori at the Paris Olympic Games, and so she'll be returning back to Olympic Games back to back. Beyond that, we go to tennis now. Michael, is looking very, very difficult for world number one in male tennis, Novak Djokovic, to win a title this year. This is almost half of the year he's not won any title. This is Rome Open, where he's been champion 6 times. He's been knocked out at the third round, courtesy of that 6-2, 6-2 defeat to relatively unknown. I think he's from Mexico also. Tabilo. A Chilean, right?
Yes, yeah. I think for me it was not a good one for Novak Djokovic, because I think for this year, I think Novak Djokovic is gradually reducing his form, his performance out there. Don't forget the tactics he often use. He doesn't take part in every competition out there. He selects the one that he wants to and focus his effort.
And it has paid off for him, really, no doubt about it.
Yes, it has paid off for him, but I think it looks as though this year, it is not working out for him out there. This is relatively an unknown Chilean player that is defeating, and this is the first time since 2006 that he has failed to make it to the semi-final, and that is to tell you the height of his disappointment so far this is. I think Rafael Nadal, he need to work on himself. Novak Djokovic as well, the same, because this is not the Novak Djokovic that we all know of, because at this point, when Novak Djokovic get to this peak period of his game, he doesn't lay down his guard, but he has done so. This it tells you that it looks as though his form is gradually
depreciating. Talking about his form, he's been terrible in this one. He's had 12 unforced errors. That's very uncommon of Novak Djokovic to have 12 unforced errors against a relatively
non-player
who had just 4 unforced errors in this match. What could be responsible for this unforced errors coming on the part? Is it because he was hit on the head, if you remember, in the first game from a bottle from the crowd?
I do not think because of the fact that he was hit on the head by a bottle. Then the bottle, it was alleged that it was a fan who the bottle fell out of her pause out. It wasn't deliberate, but though that affected him, he needed the aid of some guard added to come and take him.
No, sorry, I was talking about his unforced errors. It's actually his opponent who had just 12 unforced errors. Novak Djokovic had as many as 22 unforced errors.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough for Novak Djokovic. I think there is a golfing class between Novak Djokovic and the Chilean who also, make sure that he was able to give Novak Djokovic a run for his money. And fortunately, though, this is the first time since 2016 that the Chilean is, getting a win against, a player from this very angle. I think for me it was an impressive one, but I don't know what seems to be the problem with Novak Djokovic since the start of this year. Immediately he lost to Yannick Sinner. I mean, he find it very, very difficult to replicate the form that we've seen of him of late. I don't know whether it is the age factor that is beginning to tell on him at 36. I think this is the time you need to.
Oh, he's not won a title yet this year, and this is very strange. Going ahead to the French Open, we expect him to win, but he's not done that, and it's getting very worrisome for his fans who believe as world number one. He should rake in many titles. Like I mentioned, in 2018, since 2018, this is the first time he has never won a title leading up to May in the year. Let's look at the other the other top tennis player who is on the track as on the wrong side of the track as well. Rafael Nadal, homeboy. Everybody know that this is his last season in tennis, but he's been knocked out by yet another relatively unknown player at Rome. This is a place where he has won 14 times.
Yeah, a place that is very familiar with, a court that is very familiar with, so you expected him to also, do the needful, especially at this point in time where he has less than, a year or some 6 months, if I may put it that way, to, retire, because looking at his body language and some of the statements that he has made of late, it is very, very clear that Rafael Nadal is not going to, continue in 2025 as well. But he has made it very
Maybe
clear.
Because he lost to Herbert. Who cares? You remember, that match ended 6-1, 6-3.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe that is the reason. But then he has also continued to state very clear that he wants to give his best. And he also talked about his body. His body can be able to carry him. Then, of course, he's still ready to compete from all front to make sure that he ends the year very well. It's just that I think for me, despite the fact that he wants to finish very strong, but we have other players that are ready to give him a run for his money. So probably this is his last outing in this very familiar court for him. Let's see if we can be able to prepare ahead for what lies ahead, so that we can be able to finish very strong before he retires from the game that have made him popular.
Rafael Nadal never ever lost out in the third round of the Rome area open, where he has actually won 14 times. He had the world number one lost in just 68 minutes to a Chilean who has never come all the way. In fact, who is not in the top 10 at all. He's in around number 28 in the world. So these big players are beginning to experience mixed fortunes or difficult times going out there. For Rafa Nadal, this is his last season in tennis. Let's hope that he will bounce back, maybe at the French Open, where he's been known to be a specialist, and of course leave the strong zone. Then as for Novak Djokovic, he too hopes to return back to the play at the French Open to show whether he could extend his number of Grand Slams to number 25. No other person has been able to rake in as many as 24, which he has done better. Who says that records cannot be broken for him to go 25? Talking about no other person, male tennis player I'm talking about in this instance. Meanwhile, the females are in Rome as well. Arina Sabalenka is through to the last 16 in Rome with a comfortable straight-set win over Davana Yastremska. This is interesting. Do you think she can go very far? Ukrainian Yastremska gave her some tough time in 1 hour 28 minutes. He ended 6-4, 6-2.
Yeah, she gave her a very tough time before she was able to pull through in this very one. And she's even going to meet a more stiffer opponent.
Elena Civilona.
Yes, so for me, I think it's going to be one of the games that is going to determine if Arena Zabalenka will go far in this very one. Because looking at the opponent that he play against that actually push her to the wall, you want to say yes, if she actually struggled that way against a relatively an unknown opponent, what if she comes up against Vitolina here, who is very, very strong, who we know of her quality out there. But then let's keep our fingers crossed, hoping that she's going to also up her ante in her game against Elena Vitolina, because if she doesn't, I assure you that Vitolina would definitely have the better of Anna Zabalenka in this very one.
While the world number one in male tennis has been knocked out from the third round at the Rome Masters, the world number one in female tennis is still in there. Iga Swiatek booked her place in the women's last 16 with a 6-3, 6-4 win over Yulia Borisova. It's getting interesting here. It looks like Iga Swiatek is improving with every match.
Yeah, she's improving from every match. Looking at the way she was able to, bounce back in that very one, because in the first set out there, she was down by 4-1, and she was able to come back very strong in the second quarter, down to the third quarter before she was able to nick this one in the board. And that is what it means for you to be a world number one and stay there for a quite long time. You must also live up to that expectation. When it matters most, when the chips are down, can you be able to, come to the party? That is what Iga Swiatek represents. And if you want to remain as a world number one in the WTA, where there is a lot of competition, you must also be at your A game every minute of the time, so that you can be able to stay strong and maintain your number one status.
Talking about coming to the party, the Americans are in the party in Rome because Kuku Golf and Naomi Osaka have all moved to the next round. Naomi Osaka now expected to take on Spain bowler Paula Badosa. That is a tough game by any standard.
Definitely, Paula Badosa is not a pushover. We know what she brings to the table. Badosa is a very experienced and very smart player out there. But against Naomi Osaka,
okay.
Yes, against Naomi Osaka is going to be a very, very strong game. One thing very striking about the WTA, I think. It looks as though it's more competitive compared to the ATP, and that is why I'm enjoying the WTA, because there are a whole lot of players out there, a whole lot of competition, a whole lot of tussle to see if you can be able to maneuver any of the players out there. I think for me, it has been impressive for the WTA.
Very impressive WTA performance at the Rome Masters. 1,000 points is at stake, and I'm very sure the women will be happy to said to you that Naomi Osaka is in, world number one, Iga Swiatek is in, Kukukov is there as well. Interesting development, I must say. Now quickly, let's go to football because we're running out of time. And talking about football reminds me that the top leagues around the world are beginning to wind up with just few games to the end of the season. Winners are beginning to emerge, and those to go on relegation too are beginning to understand how life will be next season in the lower rung. But for the Nigerian Premier League here, it looks like Rivers United are beginning to know that it's not been an easy season for them because they were beaten by Sunshine Stars by 1-0 in a rescheduled Premier League football game in Akure, Nigeria.
Not a positive one for Rivers United, since they were knocked out of the CAF Confederation Cup. I thought maybe they will come back and focus all their energy in the league so as to see if they can be able to finish very strong. They have a couple of outstanding games about seat, to which the league body have also given 1 month break for other clubs out there, so that Rivers United can also be able to complete their outstanding game. But since then, they've been able to,
they won 2 at home, and of course the last 3 on the road has been very difficult for them.
Very, very difficult. I don't put it to the inconsistency of their coach, or to attribute it to the long journey out there, because you have to travel afar, to play some of these games. These are some of the factors that we also need to put in consideration. The long distance journey, then again, not having their coach very steady on the touchline out there. These are some of the contributory factors, which for me, I feel it has also hampered or dampened the Rivers United players not to perform at their optimal level. At this point in time, the equation or the talk of Rivers United, contending for the title, I think is over right now for me. What they just need to focus right now to be able to, pick vital point from the remaining games that is remaining, so that they can be able to finish in a very respectable position, at the end of the season.
Talking about finishing respectable position at the end of the season, that's what the Flamingos, the female under 17 side, has done, because they've been beating their counterparts from Burkina Faso. They've taken them to they played at a goalless draw at the weekend towards going to the FIFA under 17 Women World Cup. This is good one. They can return back to Nigeria to finish the job.
Yeah, I think it's a good one, going out there to pick up a very vital point. Although we scored first before they had to draw the equalizer, it tells you of the strength of the game. I think when we come back home, they are going to finish the job that they've started already. I think it's a good one for us.
Talking about starting a job and finishing it, the Nigeria Football Federation did start with the appointment of Finidi George as the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Today, that job will be formally finished, because there will be a formal presentation ceremony of Finidi George to the press.
Yeah, but then let's hope that we are going to, see some of the positive news, to unravel some of the secrets behind Finidi George's appointment, where the NFF have not made it very clear on how many years contract, how much is Finidi George being owed, was any compensation paid to, Enyimba Football Club, when they are going to appoint his, assistant. These are some of the key questions that I know that pressmen will want to, ask them on his unveiling. Now, we also having some dignitaries also, gracing this occasion. The Minister of Sport talking about John Owaneno, Amaju Pinnick, and the rest of the dignitaries will also grace this occasion. But like I said, I think there are salient questions that we pressmen need to also ask the NFF this very morning, when they are about to unveil Finidi George. When and how is he going to get his assistant? Because don't forget that the next World Cup qualifier, which is game 3, is by the corner. If Finidi George doesn't have an assistant, it's going to be a big problem for him. So all of the things that is shrouded around his contract must be made public to Nigeria, so that we get to know, because he's being paid with our taxpayers' money. We need to know some of this information, so that at least when anything go wrong between Finidi George or the NFF, which we are not praying for, we can actually know where to also, hinge or, focus our stand on.
Well, Finidi George to be made to go through an unveiling ceremony today in Abuja, Nigeria. Talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Finidi George, we understand there will be a formal opening of camp towards the third game of the 2026 World Cup qualifier coming up in that match is taking place in Gospel Pablo Stadium.
Yes.
Any moment from now, and the camp, we understand, will open in June. You really have to win this.
Definitely, because it's an important game for us. Looking at where we find ourselves, seated third
in that group.
In that group, I think it's not a very comfortable position for me. Looking at the fact that we lost the last World Cup qualifying game to a ticket to Ghana out here in our own backyard with that late minute strike for Thomas Partey, it will be a very disastrous one and a disheartening one if we don't also get to win, get the World Cup ticket this time around. So I think Finidi George have a lot on his hand to deal with after his unveiling today, by making sure that he put his nose on the ground to select the best hand that is going to feature in this World Cup qualifying game, so that we can be able to get the ticket. Let's get the 3 points first. I think that will give us that confidence and relax a bit more, because if we don't get all 3 points in this next game, then I tell you the pressure will even be piled against Finidi George. It will become very difficult for him to deliver. But if we get a victory with the right players in this third game, then we stand in a very advantageous position.
Talking about the right players, we understand the Fulham defender Tusi Adebayo, of course, Weather Bremens, Justin Jima, and Caleb Coley of Refrosino in Italy. Not forgetting the Luton Town playmaker Gabriel Shaw, some of the players invited to the Super Eagles camp ahead of this qualifier coming up in Uyo. We understand too that for preparations means that Francis Zoho will have to be, for the first time, has been omitted in the 25-man squad that has been released by the Nigerian Football Federation.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm not surprised that Francis Zoho was omitted, because
Maduka did return back.
Yes, he has had
been
a
very
very
busy.
impressive season so far for his
In
club.
Italy?
Yes, he has had a very impressive performance out there. I think for me, he deserves to be called back into the squad, because at this point, there is need for us to, have our best hand. And for some of the players that have been invited, some of the new invitees, like Gabriel Osho of Luton Town, though they have been relegated in the English Premier League, but then you can see the quality. And the guy from the Frosinone, he has been very, very good so far this season for the Italian team. And so for me, we need our best hand, we need our best leg at this point in time to be able to prosecute this game and get a positive result.
Nigeria needs our best hand. Players have been released, lists have been released for this encounter, and exciting it promises to be. Let's see how Finidi George and his assistants will tinker with this list and ensure that the best players represent Nigeria at that fixture at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium. We need to be at the 2026 World Cup, and it has to start with the encounter coming up in Uyo. Let's quickly go to Europe now. We're running out of time, and the biggest news coming from Europe, European football, is that Arsenal and Manchester City will stay to compete in a frenzied 90 minutes of the last day this weekend. But talking about last weekend, Arsenal were able to push Manchester United off the ladder by 1-0. And this match has elicited a lot of response, because for the first time in about 15 years, Arsenal went to Old Trafford to beat Manchester United by 1-0.
Great display from Arsenal, though not the best of their
It shows
performance.
their intent for the end of the season.
Definitely, you will say not the best of Arsenal performance so far. They had one of their worst games so far this season.
They've been scoring 4, 5, 6 goals. This is the first time they are scoring just 6.
Yeah, not about this goal, drought or the minimal goal that they scored yesterday. It's about their pattern of play. I mean, Manchester United actually asserted more pressure in the game compared to Arsenal. They had more possession.
A ragtime Manchester United.
Exactly, and that is why I'm surprised. But then again, what is important for Arsenal at this point in time is to get all 3 points, so that to continue to push the pressure against Manchester City till the last day. And this is the first time, second time in 16 attempts where Arsenal have gone to Old Trafford to also, get all 3 points. And first time, where Arsenal will do so. I think it was an impressive display from Arsenal point of view, though their defense line was very, very impeccable in their display. Likes of Saliba, Ben White yesterday, very, very much in the game, and that helped Arsenal to also hold on to that 1-0 lead. If not, Manchester United
since 1930 been winning as many as in the Premiership of England. At the end of this weekend, we'll know the third team, but for now, officially, Burnley and Sheffield United will play in the Championship.
Definitely not a sensational news for Burnley out there and Sheffield. I think Luton as well would definitely follow them, because taking a look at where they are seated right now, Nottingham Forest have the better of the goal difference against Luton Town. So it's been a very disappointing season for Sheffield United. Also breaking the EPL record by considering almost 101 goal. So far this, I think, has been very disappointing, very disastrous season that they have. After their return to the EPL, I guess they need to go back, and start digging afresh to see if they can be able to return back again. But I tell you, it wasn't a good one for Burnley either, neither for Luton Town. These are the 3 teams that also got promotion last season down to the EPL. They are also going back, from where they came from. So it looks as though the intensity in the EPL is far much, better or